Warning! The following podcast contains strong language which some listeners may find offensive. If you do,
Up yours! That's only if you don't listen to the podcast. Otherwise, not up yours.
did you know the Untitled Wrestling Podcast is on all of the social media outlets? Give us a like, follow, share, subscribe, or even a review if you're feeling generous. Facebook and YouTube at Untitled Wrestling Podcast, Twitter, Twitch and Discord at Untitled Rest Pod.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of the Untitled Wrestling Podcast. It is Tuesday, you know what that means. It's me, your boy Big Tasty, joined this week just by Jay. How's it going, Jay?
I am okay. I'm very tired, still recovering from GCW weekend.
Yeah, it hits different when you're mid-30s, doesn't it?
It hits different when you're trying to keep up with 20-year-old, well, mid-20-year-olds.
Yeah.
And they're like fucking animals.
To keep up with the theme of this week, we've come to terms on phase release. We wish her all the best in her future endeavours. Nah, she's busy. She's busy this week. She'll be back next week.
She's going to be so upset that you've done that.
She will return next week, I promise you. We're going to bring her back like Killer Cross came back.
Like a Triple H.
Like a Triple H return, and then I know Troy's going to take over the podcast or something, and then I'm not saying he's as bad as Vince, and then he's going to fire everyone again.
That's quite an apt comparison, really.
Well, Troy started the podcast, so he's technically the Vince McMahon of this whole shindig, except hopefully without quite so much like illicit goosing.
No, the power does go to his head, though.
Maybe Troy's also going to live until he's 120 and like never leave. I don't know.
No, thank you.
Should we start with some news? Because there's been a lot of news.
Yeah, I think we probably shouldn't we?
Well, there's two parts to this, really. So first of all, WWE announced a big old new TV deal.
Yeah, and well, three parts actually. They announced the TV deal. They announced the pay-per-view in Australia.
Yeah. And then they celebrated that by just a fucking good old mass culling.
I mean, they do love a good mass firing when they get like something that's bringing in a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things as well. Though. Like, I mean, a lot of big companies do that kind of thing where they'll get like some kind of big influx of cash, and to make it look better on the books, also then fire a load of people.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not mistaken, there was no post-WrestleMania bloodletting this year, was there?
No, they did do it like around this time last year though, where they released quite a like great deal of talent.
And obviously, this sort of flies in the face of what a lot of people had heard, that there wasn't going to be any talent cuts as part of the merger.
Yeah. So it's interesting because, like, obviously the way like contracts work in UFC is it's generally like a per fight deal. So they'll sign for like an X amount of fights, and then based on the success over that period of fights, they'll either be released or they'll.
Well, that has been a case for some WWE talents, because some people have talked about having so many matches left on their deal, like Goldberg and Edge, like older talent have been talked about in that capacity, haven't they?
Yeah, it is more of like a Legends contract kind of thing, but it's also one of those things where it's like you like with the talent, like in recent times they've been kind of more sort of susceptible of doing what like the likes of AEW and Impact do and letting contracts run down unless it's for sort of certainly egregious terms, whereas this kind of come out of nowhere. And
yeah, I know. Obviously, for a while there was like that sort, like you say, there was that sort of fear, wasn't there, that they won't release anyone because they're scared that they'll go to AEW and actually enjoy their lives, and we can't be having that.
Yeah.
So should we run down the list? So this sort of starts. This is sort of in chronological order as how it was announced. It all sort of was it last Friday?
It was Friday, yeah.
And then there was a few more like sprinkled in, like some didn't hit till the next day by the time, like the UK time that we learned about them. And then there was one in particular we'll talk about at the end that came out quite a bit later. and we'll talk about that because that's a bit of a special case. Right. So, starting from the top, I mean, the big one that dropped first was it actually wasn't the first one I heard about, but according to this, the first one, well, it was Dolph Ziggler, which it was quite surprising because you always thought he was a company guy.
I thought it was Ali, the first one that dropped.
That's the first one I saw, but the first one
that
on
was
this
the
list.
first one we kind of saw, wasn't it?
Yeah, I have got this list from Cultaholic, and I don't know if it's 100%, but it's in vaguely chronological order, so we'll sort of go with that. Ali was the first. Mustafa Ali was the first one I saw. Again, not a massive surprise. He'd been sort of wanting to be released for quite some time. I know he'd been brought back in fits and starts and he was booked for a match though on like an upcoming show, which was kind of weird.
So NXT are doing a pay-per-view on
No Mercy, I believe.
Yeah, on Saturday, and Ali was due to wrestle Dominic Mysterio for the NXT North American Championship. So it was quite surprising that they've been quite actively using him in storylines. Apparently his contract was due up in the summer of next year, so maybe
that
was just one of those things where they thought, well, might as well just get him out of it now if he's not got any interest in re-signing. I know in previous years, WWE have done that where there's been wrestlers who wanted to leave, they've not grabbed them the release, and then they've had say 6 months left on the deal, and they've thought there's no point keeping hold of them.
Tell you what, should we just run through them all and then we can go back and pick out a few interesting ones because we're going to be here forever, aren't we? So Dolph Ziggler, Elias, Mustafa Ali, Shelton Benjamin, Top Dollar, Riddick Moss, Emma, Aaliyah, Rick Boogs, Quincy Elliott, Bryson Montana, Dana Brooke, Mansoor, Mace, Shanky, Dabba-Kato, Yulisa Leon, Daniel MacArthur, Kevin Ventura Cortez, Alexis Gray, Brooklyn Barlow, Ike Manjiro, Abdul Abadi Fitzgerald, and Matt Riddle.
Yeah, so quite a few of those, obviously the more sort of like unrecognizable names, NXT talent. A fair few of them hadn't actually debuted on television yet.
A lot of this is part of like the sort of the 6 month improve or fuck off sort of NXT policy that they've sort of implemented over the last year or so, isn't it?
Yeah. The only ones really who've been kind of had some like prominent TV time was Yulisa Leon and Ikeman Hero.
I mean, Jack of Time is now completely dead. What a horrible world we live in.
I hope he reunites with Kushida in New Japan. It proceeds to get crimed. But genuinely, I hope he does all right. He's quite entertaining. And a lot of like kind of well tenured members of the roster there. Dolph Ziggler, shocking that after like 19 years they released him.
Kind of was teased by Ryan Nemeth last week.
Yeah. So one thing that is interesting about this as well was that in 2021, I believe it was, Dolph wanted to leave and like his contract was running out, and he basically made them one of like the top earners to keep him there till 2024.
All right.
So again, contract due up next summer.
I mean, fair play to Dolph, get that bag, but
he's literally been sat at home since May doing fuck all.
Well, he's been doing a comedy tour with his brother, mate. I'm being on BTA.
Yeah, that's true. I think he's like seems to be the biggest locked in person who's going to go to AEW, I'd assume.
Yeah, I mean, even if we just get one run with the Nemeths, I'd pop for that. Aaron, just to see Aaron's little face, it'd be worth it.
I mean, Dolph versus Kenny Omega's like a low-key dream match.
Sorry, can we address him properly as Untitled Wrestling Podcast's Wrestler of the Year, Dolph Ziggler?
Untitled Wrestling Podcast, 2-time Wrestler of the Year, Nick Nemeth versus Kenny Omega is gonna fuck.
I mean, just one Nick Nemeth versus Kenny match would be beautiful, and then we can have the Golden Lovers versus the Nemeths. What a time to be alive!
Nemeth versus FTR, Nemeth versus the Young Bucks. I mean, say what you will, like we obviously joke around about like Dolph Ziggler being like Wrestler of the Year because he did legitimately win it for us. But the guy's a hell of a talent.
Oh, he is. He can absolutely go.
Phenomenal wrestler.
He's a former world champion. People forget that.
Yeah. So he's literally like him and someone else who we'll touch on. Well, two other people we'll touch on in a moment. Is literally like the kind of embodiment of if Vince doesn't like it, you ain't getting pushed.
Yeah.
Obviously, the other two there being Shelton Benjamin and Mustafa Ali, who are two again. immensely talented wrestlers.
I mean, they're the three people from this list who I would want to see pop up in AEW from just a pure in-ring perspective.
Yeah, I mean Matt Hardy's been teasing it today, so
Yeah, well,
I
Swerve.
imagine.
It was Swerve.
So I would swear immediately just put Nemeth out,
Yeah.
and then Ryan Nemeth commented going, "Hey man, what's up?" And then Swerve just sent him a gif of Nana dancing,
Yeah.
which means the Nemeth boys are in danger.
Special shout out to WWE for releasing both Emma and Riddick Moss. As they are a couple they met whilst back in WWE. And this was 1 hour after Emma tweeted about being excited about doing a show in Australia.
I know, that's fucking scandalous, isn't it? Emma had only been back like 12 months as well, hasn't she?
I mean, what was the fucking point?
She was one of Triple H's hires and she did absolutely fuck all.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dana Brooks, another one. She's been there.
Before we move on from Emma, Saraya was tweeting about wanting to wrestle Emma. So,
I mean, they had a really good match in like OG NXT.
Yeah.
To crown the first NXT Women's Champion, they do have good chemistry. Tenille Dashwood's incredibly talented. She had a fantastic run in Impact.
Her Impact run, yeah. If you haven't seen her Impact run, that is absolutely worth checking out.
Yeah, not long before she rejoined WWE as well. She was like on the heels of that, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I can see it going to Impact or Ring of Honor. Dana Brooks, an interesting one. She's been there for ages. Very start pushing. She's fine in the ring.
Yeah, we'll always have that one time that she got Batista proper horny.
Yeah, I'll always have that time at NXT house show where she was managing Emma, funnily enough, and the guy behind me, every time she like tried to like talk, would just stand up on his chair and go, "Shut the fuck up, Dana!" And she just turned around looking increasingly more angry.
Fantastic. We've also got Rick Boogs, who alleged that his firing was a result of backstage politics.
Oh, he literally he said something on like I think it was Reddit, maybe or his YouTube.
Did he do an AMA? I know he said basically any like if Vince had stayed in power, I absolutely would still be employed in the company.
Yeah. Which is interesting because he came back from the injury and was getting that mini push from Triple H.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that works. Yeah, I mean, sure. What I am very interested to see what they do next is Maximum Male Models.
They did the right thing. They basically got straight onto like Twitch and did like a shoot interview, didn't they? Like as soon as they got released.
They've done multiple things. Like they did a thing where they were talking about it was actually on this week's Botchamania. They were talking about when they were meant to do this angle with Braun Strowman where they were like modeling like schoolwear, and it was the back to school range it was, and they were both like dressed as like sexy schoolboys. And Mace had a lunchbox which had a sandwich in, and Braun was meant to knock them over, pick up the lunchbox and eat the sandwich, and then murder Mansoir. And when like first of all, the video of it's fantastic where like Braun's music hits and both of their faces just drop, and then Braun just like powers through them both. But he hit Mace so hard that Mace threw the lunchbox in the crowd by mistake. And then he's like looking around, and Braun's looking around, and then Mace is like, "I'm sorry, man, it's gone."
Yeah.
And it kind of like speaks to the atmosphere in WWE that Mace is like, "Yeah, I was so scared that they thought I was going into business for myself that I tried to retrieve the lunchbox, and I finally got it at the end of the angle and just like threw it back on the ground and just keep it."
Oh, amazing.
But yeah, it is very funny. They're both very charismatic and entertaining guys. Did you see the video Mansoor did? Like kind of saying when he was going to be taking bookings.
No.
It was brilliant. It's like a video of him holding his baby, and he's like, "I've just been fired. I've just had a baby." And then he like basically doing like this sales pitch, and he goes, "I'm 6'1", and then his wife like who's filming it goes 5'11". He goes, "Shut up." He's just a very funny guy. I think those two will be entertaining whatever they do, and they'll probably do fine.
Was it Mansoor who came out and basically said one of the reasons why they couldn't book him very often was that like he wasn't allowed to lose, like because he's from Saudi Arabia or something like that?
Yeah, so when they first started doing the Saudi shows, they'd literally just get Mansoor to come out and wrestle guys like Dolph Ziggler and Cesaro and beat them and have like a convincing match with them because he was like born in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, which is
Um,
crazy.
yeah, and because of that, again he had quite like a stop-start like thing where, and he said on their Twitch stream, he was like, "Yeah, I had like loads of heat because of it because I was getting the special treatment." I was like, I don't want that. I want to air my place."
Yeah.
But yeah, he seems like a very grounded individual. And he seems like, again, I think those two are gonna go on the indies and probably just have a fucking blast doing what, like, just fucking round.
Yeah, important to note as well. I don't have the names because there's so many. This follows on from also over 100 office employees who were fired by WWE on Friday as well.
Yeah, that was the kind of like expected cuts, wasn't it? Because obviously, with any business merger, they're going from like two headquarters to one headquarters.
Yeah,
So there's going to be people doing roles that they don't need two people doing the same role. So
a
that
couple
was always kind of
couple of
like,
big positions. A couple of executive positions went as well, which was really quite you know.
well, yeah, Frank Riddick was like the kind of big one. He was really high. I can't remember exact role, but he's really high up, and he'd been with the company for like a long time.
Yeah,
Um, obviously, obviously, a lot of these people who have kind of left the company have got like got a big payout in that kind of executive role.
oh yeah, none of these
Um,
people were making minimum wage before these cuts. So you know.
no, a lot of higher ups have probably taken that payout, going, yeah, that's like enough for me to retire. I don't need to worry about that.
On a special shout out to Elias, who sort of blew up kayfabe on the way out and confirmed that he was also
Oh,
Ezekiel.
what about Elrod?
We didn't get any confirmation on that. And obviously, with the release of Dabba-Kato, that just proves that the Nigerian drum fight was in fact utterly cursed.
I mean, Apollo Crews has got like, he had that special life for a bit. I don't know what he's doing now.
Yeah. And obviously Matt Riddle was the big one that sort of came out right at the end. That was so again a lot of rumor and a lot of sort of reporting around the fact that he was basically done as soon as this last incident occurred, and it was just waiting for the right time.
Yeah, I know. Fightful put a thing out saying that like it was one too many bridges burned with him,
Mm.
one too many second chances, and you just look at like some of the shit that he's kind of like done, and it's like, yeah, I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did.
Which is mad because a story came out today from who reported it? Got it here. Wrestle from Meltzer. About so apparently CM Punk has a lot of bad like reputation, about feeling in WWE management, but Matt Riddle doesn't have any. So you know, if you talk bad about WWE, they'll hate you forever. But if you know maybe do crime, you're all right.
Yeah, I mean, after the whole um accusing like employees of JFK of sexual assault when it turned out that he was just inebriated.
Yeah, well, and again, this is just hearsay and conjecture at this point. But there's been a lot of people saying online that the Riddle stuff that we know about is like the tip of the iceberg as well. Like he's got skeletons.
Yeah, like he did get named by multiple people in speaking out, and I was surprised. I'm surprised it didn't kind of get him released.
Well, WWE did that fake statement saying that he basically let them know about these allegations when he signed with them, even though by the time he signed with them, the woman hadn't actually made the allegations public to anyone.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So you know, I'm sure that's all absolutely payable, bud. So yeah, don't worry about it.
That sounds like something that WWE would do. Sure.
But yeah, so obviously a lot of negativity in a lot of contract news this week. A lot of negativity in WWE at the moment. Apparently morale's like again really quite low, and it always is around these sort of like times when lots of people are getting let go and apparently a lot of news that Vince has just basically got more power than ever now because he's basically been left to just run. But also another news that he might actually be let go from the company because they think he's bad for business. So I don't know who to believe there.
Yeah, I feel as though I feel as though with this they're putting him in charge to sort of as because he knows the ins and outs of the company.
Mm.
And then I feel like as soon as like TKO have the chance to kind of go, see you later, they will. Nick Khan's probably like the sort of like heir apparent, isn't he, to that?
Yeah. Which again, has led to another rumor that The Rock might be coming back to WWE on a more full-time basis. Obviously, with his sort of links to UFC and his sort of friendship with Nick Khan, there's talk that he might be at Elimination Chamber in like a run up to Mania.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk that apparently it was meant to be Rock versus Roman last year at Mania, or sorry, this year at Mania, and Cody versus Roman the following year.
Yeah.
And then Rock couldn't like pulled out because he couldn't commit to it. And then there was talk, oh yeah, it's probably going to be 40 instead, which is funny that they'd like go, oh yeah, we're going to have Cody finish the story at Mania next year. It's like, oh no, you're not. I bet Cody's desperate for this writer's strike to end, so Dwayne gets too busy again.
So Dwayne and John just go away.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of John, he's obviously was meant to be having a match. Well, I think he still is having a match at the next pay-per-view. He was meant to be tagging with AJ Styles. He's been injured, and apparently he's going to be tagging with LA Knight, who unfortunately got COVID this week.
Yeah, interesting fact about it. So LA Knight missed SmackDown because he tested positive for COVID. Like literally as he got to the venue, he basically got told to leave, didn't he?
Yeah.
So it was a real like.
At least they're testing at the venue still.
Yeah, but it was apparently it was a really last minute thing, and this is the interesting thing. When they announced that he wasn't going to be appearing, they offered refunds to fans, which just gives you an idea of how like essential they see LA Knight to their sort of main programming at the moment.
Well, yeah, he's the next fucking guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which is funny because Kevin Nash, like the most chill man in the world, Kevin Nash.
Kevin Nash fucking hates him.
Hates his guts.
I don't know. Like, I mean, with no disrespect meant to LA Knight. Like, I mean, he's fine, but for me, like saying you hate LA Knight is like saying you hate the taste of water. Like,
yeah.
I can understand being like ambivalent, but like hatred, like strong emotions, like I just don't see that.
Yeah. I pass. No idea, mate. It's probably one of those things where it's someone who's just on a podcast trying to keep himself relevant. But everyone loves Kevin Nash, so why would he need to do that?
Just to go a bit more into that report about Vince. So apparently this was due to an SEC filing. Basically hinted that Vince McMahon might be on his way out. Okay. He's still under investigation, don't forget. That hasn't ended. No charges have been filed yet. Yeah, he owns basically his shares in TKO are currently valued at $3 billion, so he's got some dosh behind him whenever he does.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine if they do like actually relieve him of his duties, he'll still be a majority shareholder in that sense. Well, a major shareholder in that sense, I should say, not a majority shareholder. But he'll still have like that kind of.
So the quote from the filing basically said this was filed in August. That Vince McMahon, alongside two other TKO executives, will be selling stock holdings in this offering, would indicate his eventual departure from the company. TKO noted in a regulatory filing that, quote, McMahon's membership on our board could expose us to negative publicity and or have other adverse financial and operational impacts on our business. His membership may also result in additional scrutiny or otherwise exacerbate the other risks described herein. Any of these outcomes could directly or indirectly have adverse financial and operational impacts on our business.
Yeah. What's interesting about it as well is they obviously got that TV deal, which was worth $1.4 billion. and the stock price sunk after they got it, which was insane. Like literally the biggest TV deal in the company history, and the stock price takes a dip. Probably because they just fired a fuck ton of fucking staff straight afterwards. But yeah.
Yeah, and there's an even more bizarre story that I'm trying to get hold of the specifics.
Is it is it is it Rick Boogs? I know we got that one.
No, we done Boogs. No, I can't find it. I guess I'll go over it. It was WWE have terminated their agreement with Panini because of contractual
I saw that.
reasons. They say Panini broke contract or something.
Yeah, which is intriguing.
See if I can follow up.
It got announced. It got announced just before we did the podcast last week. Actually, there wasn't any concrete details from what I saw.
So it says, WWE reportedly terminated its deal with Panini. The WWE says Panini, which is still selling product, is now in violation and will seek an injunction. It had 2 years left on its deal, and it's now got a deal with Fanatics, but that's not supposed to begin until 2026. But it's apparently now going to come in immediately. So I don't know whether that was a sort of a financial thing or.
Well, Fanatics run the WWE shop.com now.
Right, okay.
And they have done since, I want to say, 2022. So it could just be obviously like a bit of a hostile takeover in that sense, maybe. Kind of like the Newcastle thing with Castor and Adidas, where like they've just been handed a load of money to terminate something.
So WWE actually demanding that Panini pay them $5.6 million, which is the minimum royalties due under the contract.
You know, they mustn't have recalled this, whatever the product was in time.
Well, it says WWE allegedly suddenly terminated the deal, purportedly under the provision of the contract giving them the right to terminate if Panini, quote, did not engage in good faith efforts to make physical trading card games and digital trading card games.
Ooh.
So who the fuck knows? They're suing trading card companies. They're signing billion-dollar deals. They're sacking everyone. You know, just another week in the WWE.
Yeah. Should we talk about some more departures, but from the Impact this time?
Yeah, let's go to the Impact Zone. Who's not showing up in the Impact Zone?
Well, Sami Callihan's contract expires this week.
Yes, on the 30th of September, I believe.
Yes, and he's been quite heavily linked with AEW, mainly because he's really good friends with Jon Moxley.
Yeah. Also, it's important to note he runs Warrior Wrestling, right?
Wrestling
Revolver, which obviously Mox and some other AEW talent have appeared on quite a bit. So
yeah, it's kind of like the bridge between Impact and AEW.
You're saying Wrestling Revolver is the forbidden door?
I'd say it's the forbidden revolver, the revolving door.
The revolving door.
Yeah, their next show on the 8th of September does have Mox versus Gringo Loco, provided Mox gets cleared.
Yes. Oh god, that match is cursed because it's already been put back once, hasn't it?
Yeah. The other name leaving Impact is PCO. He's given a notice to Impact, and his contract is set to expire on the 30th of October.
The day before Halloween. What a
I'd love it if PCO showed up in WWE. Fucking nosebleeds that would be happening with their fans would just be amazing.
It would be incredible. I mean, he's getting on a bit now, PCO, but fair play to him. He's really like sort of rejuvenated his career like a couple of times, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he went from Mountie to Pirate to
Frankenstein.
Whatever. Well, he had that like weird in between bit. Oh, he was fucking, was it Mr. X in TNA as well?
Yeah.
The X division, and he never won the belts.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been all over. Yeah, I'd be intrigued to see where he goes next. He seems to show up in GCW quite a lot, so maybe also, Adam Cole has been announced to face Chris Danger at DPW on the 12th of November.
Yeah.
One of two big AEW talents working outside bookings that day. For anyone who doesn't know Chris Danger, he is Denkops on YouTube. He big part of DPW. He was trained by Adam Cole. So it was kind of like one of those things where he was always going to probably be his first match. He's also really good friends with the rest of the party. including Breezy, Swiss, and the other one, Woods.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm intrigued how that goes. DPW are like low key putting out some fucking awesome stuff. They've got like, again, they're another one of those like indie companies. They've got like loads of like really odd work and relationships with companies that you're like, how the fuck have they done them?
They don't seem that big, but they don't half get some big talent.
Well, they get like loads of AEW talent.
Yeah.
Like signed AEW talent, and they get quite a lot of like talent from like Stardom and Tokyo Joshi Pro.
Like
and
Swerve's wrestled there, hasn't he?
I feel like Swerve might have wrestled there, yeah. I know when they first like started, they had like guys like Evil Uno and Chaos Project. Emi Sakura is the women's champion there currently.
Oh, nice.
And they've had guys like Alex Coughlin, Takeshita had a run there. So yeah, it definitely, if you get a chance to watch some of the stuff, they have a lot of good stuff going on there for sure. Speaking of Takeshita, should we talk about the other 12th of not January? Good God,
the other big AEW star who's going to a new promotion. Yeah,
the 12th of November for DDT. Chris Jericho versus Konosuke Takeshita. That's huge.
In DDT.
In Japan.
Yeah, it's just the first time that Jericho has been to Japan since the New Japan matches with Kenny and like all that stuff.
Last match he had in New Japan was the match against Tanahashi. So yeah.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, it was when the former president of New Japan, Harold Mai, who a lot of people kind of really didn't like. He said that Chris Jericho wasn't worth the money, which is an insane statement to make.
Which, if AEW is proved anything, it's that Chris Jericho is probably worth the money.
Chris Jericho's definitely worth the money. But yeah, I think that it's going to be a silly good show that I might have to try and check that out indeed.
Absolutely. Sticking with AEW, should we talk about one person who's sticking around at AEW?
Yes, let's.
Mr. Edward Kingston.
Yeah.
He announced his contract extension in the most like Eddie Kingston way possible, just low key in the middle of the interview. Just like, oh yeah, you haven't heard about it because I just handle my shit, but I've got another 4-year deal.
I'd like it to be that Eddie always like stays there.
I mean, I think there's we've talked about this before. Where there's definitely on Discord. I think there's definitely scope for Eddie to be kept around as long as he wants. He's clearly a guy. A news story came out a few weeks ago that he's one of the guys who Tony Khan really trusts backstage.
Yeah, I think as well with the thing with Eddie, which is like he's really kind of works like sort of a relatively safe style. Like he drops people on the heads, but he doesn't really get dropped on his head much.
Yeah, I mean, are we calling King's Road safe now?
I mean, you know what I mean. Like Eddie doesn't take any like seriously stupid risks. He works a relatively safe style for himself.
Yeah, he doesn't jump through fucking tables or anything, does he, or anything like that?
Yeah, it's very rare you see you see like Eddie like really going like absolutely mental, but he still has captivating and exciting matches, which is always good. Yeah, very well deserved.
There's also an excellent interview as well on Fightful with some of this stuff in with Eddie, and he basically talks about on the one a few things are really one. He talks about like, oh yeah, I'm Ring of Honor champion, but there's still the World Championship, so that's he's still got a goal to like sort of push towards, which is really nice because I want that really badly. And he also talks really like quite frankly and quite openly about like the pressure he put on himself when he was younger to sort of achieve all the success and how that sort of like not ruined his career, but sort of like it made him feel really frustrated and like how he wasn't getting where he wanted to. And it was only when he got older that he realized it was only ever him setting that time for him, and he's like, there's no there's no like limit. Like if I'm 30 and I've not made it to where I want to be, I can still get there because I've still got time. It's only when he was younger that he was saying I want to be here by this point. And like when he sort of stopped looking at it that way, he sort of started to like sort of appreciate it a bit more and sort of get enjoy the journey a little bit.
I mean, look at Terry Funk. He was like still relevant when he was like in his 50s.
Yeah, so
Not someone who Eddie
just
bases
after,
a lot of career.
just after he passed, someone posted a list of promotions that Terry Funk worked in. It was like, here's all the promotions, here's all the events Terry Funk wrestled in like the first half of his 50s. And it was like,
What a great man Terry Funk was. While we're on the subject of Eddie, he's just been announced for New Japan Royal Quest 3, which is a show that I'm increasingly more thinking maybe I should go to.
yeah, he also, I mean, on the negative side of all this, he has announced that he does have a slight back injury, and as a result, he is not doing any independent dates until it heals up.
Yeah,
because of like the demands of having to basically, well, spoilers for later, of having to basically defend 2 championships.
Yeah, and he already had commitments with AEW and New Japan, and obviously New Japan in particular is ramping up quite a lot towards like Wrestle Kingdom now, and you'd have to think Eddie's going to be on that card.
Oh, that's going to be so cool.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. Eddie wrestling in the Tokyo Dome.
I'm happy for it, but I can't believe Faye gets to see that, and I don't.
Yeah. Well, should we talk about what he's doing at Copper Box in London? Because again, I'm really considering this card because they've only announced 5 matches, and fuck me, the 5 absolute bangers. So let's start off with El Desperado vs Trent Seven. Did not know I needed that, but I do.
Yeah, it's gonna go hard.
Yota Tsuji versus Luke Jacobs again. Didn't know I needed it, but
Luke
I
Jacobs,
do.
very quietly, Luke Jacobs is having a year, isn't he?
Oh man, his match with Ishii at Rev Pro was out of this world. It was one of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen live.
Yeah,
it was phenomenal. Luke Jacobs is he's one of those talents. Like, I think if it wasn't for guys like Leon Slater, who are just like, you can see are going to be like a megastar, I think a lot of more people will be talking about Luke Jacobs.
Yeah,
and that's not against Leon Slater, because Leon Slater is fucking unreal, but you know what I mean. Luke Jacobs is he's a different kind of wrestler, but he's just as exciting. Next, we've got a 6-man tag: Eddie Kingston, Tanahashi, and Michael Oku versus the United Empire's TJP, Jeff Cobb, and Hanare. Yeah. I know you're excited about Eddie Kingston and Jeff Cobb tangling up there.
Yeah.
A tasty special. We've got Ishii versus Shingo, and the main event for the IWGP UK Championship: Will Ospreay versus Zack Sabre Jr. So yeah, that's 5 matches, and all could steal the night.
Yeah.
I imagine they are probably going to announce a few more, because they usually do. I think last year they had 2 nights last year, but I think they had like maybe 8 or 9 matches per night. So I'd imagine you probably see, as I say, another maybe 3 matches announced for that.
Yeah.
But I'm increasingly more considering going to this show.
It's just so far away, and it's like it's going to be so expensive to get there and stay there.
Yeah. Although that being said, like it's not that, it wouldn't be that bad, I don't think. It's just again, just getting there, innit?
Yeah.
I know my luck would be fucking train strikes like last year. But yeah, it's certainly an exciting card. Very, very excited to see what else they add to that.
Yeah, so speaking of coming into AEW, we've got one possible rumored someone who might be on their way in is Mariah May. We talked about this a few weeks ago, but its speculation has increased, it's intensified. So apparently she's finished up with Stardom and moved back to England. And yeah, there's a lot of talk that she could be going to AEW. Not confirmed. She could also be talking to WWE. We don't know. Although, interestingly enough, apparently she used to model merchandise for WWE like a few years back.
Yeah. I believe it was her last Stardom match on Sunday, was it?
Yeah.
Saturday or Sunday. So yeah, it's certainly very interesting to see where she's going to end up. She's a very exciting talent for sure, and I think as well someone who could really thrive in the AEW Women's division.
Yeah, it does seem like with obviously we're sort of spinning our wheels a little bit, waiting for Mercedes to sort of get fit, aren't we? Before she comes in, there's talk of like a match with Julia happening at some point in AEW. Like it does feel like they're maybe making a bit of a run to build the women's division up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I'll have to see what happens there. Keep an eye on that one.
Yeah.
Um,
Anything else
is
you
there
want to talk
any?
about news-wise?
I don't think there is. I think we've done quite an extensive coverage this week, haven't we?
Been a lot of news, yeah. And there's a few little AEW bits that we can blend into sort of when we talk a bit about AEW, because they sort of organically filter in, which would be quite nice. So yeah, do you want to move on to some AEW talk? Do you want to do what we did last week and just sort of pick out any bits that you want to talk about specifically, and we'll just sort of natter about them instead of going through the whole kit and caboodle?
I think so. That's quite a good way to do it.
Because I haven't watched Rampage because I was too busy.
I barely managed to watch Rampage, to be fair.
So let's start at the beginning. Let's start with what made me the happiest man in the world this week, and that was Mr. Edward Kingston taking on that despicable bastard Claudio Castagnoli in AEW Grand Slam.
Yeah, this was great. This was
just really fun, wasn't it? Like it was two guys just having a hell of a time. And like finishing the story and like closing off this 15-year story. Even like I saw a tweet about Tony Deppen, of Tony Deppen basically saying that handshake should have happened in Chikara 15 years ago, and now it just happened on national TV in front of 10,000 people in a stadium, and that's like really fucking cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I loved as well the fact that Claudio was wearing Misawa's colours, Eddie was wearing Kawada's colours.
Yeah.
Kawada, obviously, the day before All Out, said to Eddie he wants him to start using the power bomb as a finisher, and
instead of the Northern Lights bomb.
Yeah. And Eddie debuted it wearing Kawada's colours against Claudio wearing Misawa's colours.
And they did the finish from Kawada Misawa as well.
Yeah. It was cool as shit. And it was just literally like, again, there was so many times when you kind of thought, oh no, Claudio's going to do it.
Well, no. Eddie kicked out the Ricola bomb, which I think is the first time he's done it.
Yeah. I think he might have done it Supercard, if I'm not mistaken.
Because the whole feud in Chikara was around the fact that Claudio could never hit the Ricola bomb, and every time he did, it was the end of the match. Like it was always, Eddie had to avoid it. There was no escaping it.
Yeah. I'm sure he kicked out of it, and I can't remember. It's been a while since I watched that match. I need to go back and
I can't watch that match again. It hurts my heart too much.
But yeah, there was that callback, wasn't there, where to the finish where Eddie had the match won and Claudio rolled him up, and Claudio did the roll up, and I was like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
Sadly, we didn't get any surprise death by elbow. There's still time.
But no, so like again, so in that interview he talked about like, you know, who was the first like non-wrestling person that like spoke to you after your win, and he was like, oh yeah, both my parents were in the crowd, and like they text me like straight away, like sent me pictures and everything, which is great. Like Eddie he wins it in New York City in Arthur Ashe with his family in attendance, which is incredible. And then they asked him like what was his victory meal, and he was like, oh yeah, the next day when I got home I was gonna get Five Guys, but I didn't. He said he got Chick-fil-A, and he got burgers, fries, nuggets, and ice cream.
Yeah, he deserves it.
Yeah. It was great. It was just fantastic. It was like, yeah, like you said, there's been like we'll sort of spin this in. There's been a bit of Chikara news bubbling away this week with obviously Eddie and Claudio finishing the story was basically resurfaced Ultramantis Black, and he's been like making some appearances.
Yeah, and Hallow Wicked and Frightmare have been teasing something with Incoherence as well.
Yeah, so I think Eddie and Claudio have broken the multiverse, and like, and also Wrestle Island in Liverpool, Birkenhead, they're doing a King of Trios tournament next year. So
they are. Yeah, there's quite a lot of Also the former Dasha Hatfield, who's now going by Avery Good, professional wrestler, is a very good professional wrestler. He's doing a lot of stuff with IWTV. I think he's the commissioner.
He was on Dark as well, wasn't he? Briefly.
He was.
On Dark. As did obviously
very good wrestler as well.
As did obviously Sugar Dunkerton as Panel Pete.
Yeah, and obviously there's like a lot of kind of ex-Shikara guys knocking about WWE and AEW.
Yeah, one thing I really want one day to just either do a video or a podcast about like how far the influence of the Chikara locker room, like the good people in the Chikara locker room, spread throughout wrestling over the last 10 years.
Yeah, that's a project we can work on.
But no, you love to see it. You love Mox. Mox, like a couple of weeks ago when Mox called this Chikara bullshit.
Yeah.
And then and importantly as well, Claudio does shake Eddie's hand after the match as well, and I think was in what is a huge deal, hands him the Ring of Honor title.
Yeah, I love the way Eddie shook his hand and like he did it as if he didn't want to do it, even though that's all he wanted.
Yeah,
all he wanted was Claudio to shake his hand, and he finally did it. He was like, "Fuck you, Claudio." It was like the last big fuck you. It was awesome. Yeah, I was made up for Eddie. This is awesome. My only gripe with it was I don't think it should have opened the show. I think they could have had this close Rampage.
Yeah, but I liked that it was on Dynamite though. Like I think they put it there to be like a big. It was like a big get everyone in the room really happy and cheering. The downside is it absolutely fucking killed the next match.
Well, I mean, it wasn't the only thing that killed the next match. To be fair, let's be honest. There was. I do want to. It's not my thing I want to pick out, but I do want to kind of just give its flowers. That Adam Cole and Roderick Strong segment was fucking brilliant.
Oh, with the bed.
With the bed, the creak, it was just Roderick Strong's doing the fucking Lord's work.
Yeah,
he really is. He's so entertaining. Just whiny generic white guy Roderick Strong's fucking brilliant.
Again, like that's something of like, Adam, I can't see you. Where are you? And he's like, your eyes are closed.
Adam. Oh, it's fucking brilliant. I love him so much. Yeah, I also want to I don't want to really go into it because I thought the match itself was a bit shit, but I love the parallels between Jericho and Sammy Guevara Jericho versus Sammy Guevara and Jericho and Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 19. Down to the point that Sammy's gear was an homage to Jericho's gear from Mania 19, and Jericho's was an homage to Shawn's, I believe. And then Sammy did the whole kicking Jericho in the dick like Jericho did to Shawn.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people didn't really like it. I thought it was really cool, and they doubt a lot about it.
My only like not criticism of this is like, so if Sammy was always going to betray Jericho and join Don Callis, why did Don Callis wait until he'd lost? Why not come down like during the match and help Sammy win?
I feel like it added a bit more, like, I don't know, a bit more emphasis on it, because Sammy betrayed Jericho, and it could have just been down to frustration because that's what the Jericho and Shawn Michaels thing was. But then Callis coming out, it added that kind of like extra bit of gravitas to it, where it's like, oh no shit, Sammy's like done with Jericho. Like you could have. Oh, go on.
I was gonna say, follow on from this, we got a match announcement for Wrestle Dream, which looks to be an absolute motherfucker.
Spicy boy, innit? Yeah, so the Don Callis family of Sammy Guevara, Takeshita, and Will Ospreay versus...
Will Ospreay's just popping back in for another fucking 5-star banger.
Yeah, versus Chris Jericho and the Golden Lovers, because, that'll be fun. I love that, like, they just keep having, like, the Golden Lovers just showing up in, like, 6-man tags. It's like, yeah, I'm here for it. And I hope Takeshita, like, knees Kenny's soul out his body again.
In front of Kota.
Or actually, no, Bushi in front of Kenny. And Kenny's just sat there on like his hands and knees, like, no.
It's gonna be the most upsetting thing since that Transformers movie that came out in like the fucking 80s.
It's gonna be like Optimus Prime dying in that Transformers film. Fucking hot rod. Yeah, the thing I actually do want to talk about though, now we kind of like just shed a light on a few little bits. Still from Dynamite is MJF and Samoa Joe, because I thought this match was fantastic.
Yeah.
Another, again, like MJF for me is, I wouldn't say quietly making the case for Wrestler of the Year, but I think there's people who have had more kind of prominent Wrestler of the Year like performances, like the likes of Orange Cassidy, Bryan Danielson,
Will
and I
Ospreay.
think Will Ospreay, and I think that MJF is like, when you look back at the matches he's had this year, because he's not wrestled often, but when he has,
Well, find the battle.
The large majority of matches have been fantastic. The fact that in my current match of the year list that I've got, he's in, I think, 3 of the matches. Like, speaks for itself.
I don't want to like sort of draw this comparison too heavily because I know it upset people, but he's got that like Okada big last 5 minutes to all of his matches, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. He really reminds me of kind of like I'm obviously there's the Piper comparisons there, and he does remind me of Piper with a lot of the stuff he does and like a lot of like the kind of psychology, but he really reminds me of Jake Roberts, and I feel like the fact that he's got Jake Roberts there to kind of like use as a fountain of information probably shows why.
Is that in that he does a lot with a little, and he's sort of like everything he does
a lot.
Everything he does means a lot, doesn't it? Like everything he does, like
Yeah. So if you watch all Jake matches, he's constantly going for the DDT. Like he's picking his opponent away, and then he goes to the DDT, and then they fight out, and then he does a little bit more, and then he goes for the DDT again. He's constantly trying to get his finisher, which is what every wrestler should be doing, really. And you look at MJF, and obviously it's not necessarily going for his finisher, but like he'll be going for like the Dynamite Diamond Ring, or he'll be looking for like that next shortcut. And
don't forget, mate, these wrestlers, they have got to fill the momentum bar before they can hit the finisher.
Yeah, that's true. But MJF makes like little things mean so much in the like the fact that MJF said he was going to tap Joe this match, and the whole match MJF was going for rear naked chokes on Joe.
Yeah,
and it was just nothing was working until the very end when he gets his wrist tape off while the ref's distracted and chokes Joe out. And it's just like little things like that which make MJF kind of, as I say, he's gradually. I feel like by the end of the year, he's going to be in like the kind of like nomination for sure for Wrestle of the Year.
Did you think there was serious trouble when Joe hit that muscle buster?
Yes. I didn't think he was dropping the belt, and I think there's every possibility MJF drops it at Full Gear, but I also think there's every possibility he holds it till like going into the new year because they're bidding more at 24.
And shout out to Adam Cole for nearly fucking his ankle on the run-in as well.
He sprained his ankle, didn't he?
Yeah.
Got a heavy sprain on his ankle. He's going to be just about cleared for Wrestle Dream, which, I mean, to be fair, at least they've got like a match against like 2 like very safe hands in the Righteous where MJF can take like a beating off like guys like Dutch and Vincent. I still think that Adam Cole's the guy to dethrone MJF at the moment.
Come back to that, like recircle. It needs to be when when they finally pull the trigger and have him turn heel.
Yeah, because they're doing the whole thing where
do you
reckon
they're possibly waiting for Kyle O'Reilly to come back for that, or
maybe? Definitely interesting that they've kind of got the Undisputed Era and the Kingdom sort of merged together.
Yeah.
And I think that Adam Cole logically makes sense. In my heart, I still want it to be MJF like just turns heel again and we get Orange Cassidy do it. But I think that you can still quite compellingly get from like MJF, Adam Cole, Orange Cassidy. Purely just because of the whole Cole and Cassidy feud that they had when Cole came into AEW. But yeah, it's definitely like taking an interesting turn here. Obviously, they were like, there was the whole MJF's body's failing him now, and how long can he keep this up? It's kind of similar to Orange Cassidy.
And it was like the way they booked the match as well. It was very much a case, as they said, of MJF trying to survive Joe, not so much beat him.
Which is how every match with Joe should be.
Yeah, obviously. And it was interesting in the end as well. So, like, him and Cole almost like conspire to cheat. Well, they do conspire to cheat.
Yeah.
Because MJF uses his wrist tape and Cole distracts the referee while he does it. And then he chokes you out. Like, so he does what he did to Punk in Chicago, and chokes him out with his wrist tape. However, the key element here is now he's got a friend to help him. He can do it.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get spotted, and then he tries to hide it, and then the ref, like Paul Turner, lifts his arm up, the tape falls out, so then he just hugs Paul Turner and turns him around so he doesn't see it.
Paul Turner fucking blew his knee out, didn't he? Jumping out the ring.
Yeah. So there was meant to be like a sort of close call ref bump, wasn't there? Where like Joe was gonna like get back into the corner and he almost hit Paul Turner, and he just bails out the ring and like fucks his knee up. Yeah, as you said.
Yeah, because he was like hopping around. It's like, fuck, I hope he's all right. Yeah. Also, got to give a little shout out to the before the match, the Bret Hart homage that MJF did.
Oh, the little video. Yeah, that was excellent.
Little kid going, Max, and then him going over, giving him a scarf, and then whispering, "You're adopted." Fucking excellent.
That was incredible. Right, I want to move. There's something I was going to talk about. I'll leave that for you because I think it's something you'll be interested in. Something we just touched on very briefly in that last little bit. I want to talk very briefly, and I'll pass back to you about the international title match and the whole sort of surrounding that, because it's not something that we necessarily. I'm made up about because obviously the circumstances, but I feel like it's something we need to talk about. So Phoenix fought Moxley for the international title. It looks like at the very start of the match, Mox bounces his head off the concrete when he catches Phoenix on a dive.
Yeah, Phoenix, like the angle he kind of came off at, because obviously the way the stage was, he dived off at a weird angle anyway. No, first of all, no one was at fault for this. Like it was just one of those things. Like I know the internet love blaming people for things like this. I know he wouldn't have got hurt if he was still in WWE. Shut up. It was a freak thing. Mox got his bell rung, and then it became pretty clear after a while that he was concussed. So Mox called an audible, which again it shows how like much of a professional Mox is that he did that.
Yeah, so it was a kind of a weird way because as the match went on, like Moxley sort of did all right. Like there was some really nice spots in it as well. There was one bit where Phoenix was on the was trying to run on the barricade and Mox just like pushed him off, which I really liked. Yeah. Mox still did a really good job. Then he got towards the end of the match. I don't know what the finish was meant to be. Presumably Mox was meant to retain. However, Mox took a 500 driver from Phoenix. Yeah, which was he basically just didn't kick out of. He just kept his shoulders down, and Rick Knox had no idea what was happening because obviously Mox hadn't had the chance to communicate with him, and he just basically didn't count the three because Mox was meant to not lose, and then you could hear Mox literally shout,
screaming at him,
"Fuck you!" Yeah, and then started screaming at him, telling him what was happening. So then Phoenix just gave him another one and pinned him straight away.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like obviously the main thing is, we hope Mox is okay. It sounds like he's going to be fine.
So there was an update from Meltzer. So he's in concussion protocol. Obviously, everyone went back to his. There was some pictures of everyone at his trailer. Like everyone went back to his trailer afterwards.
It was Tony, Claudio, Renee, Yuta, and Orange Cassidy.
Apparently, Renee was just really fucking furious with Mox for carrying the match on. Which, if you know John Moxley, like he's going to carry the match on. Like that's.
Yeah, he's not gonna like literally in the opening seconds of the match. It's like try being like the referee telling him you can't wrestle.
Yeah. So according to Dave, Mox he's in concussion protocol. He's apparently absolutely fine. There's none of like the sort of the serious problems that, like, for example, Adam Cole was having with his concussion.
Yeah.
Which is really good news. Apparently, he's just waiting to clear it. Basically, he's got a clear concussion protocol, get himself back ready to go, and then I don't know what they're going to do. Whether they're going to run that match back, put the belt back on Mox, or they're going to carry in plans with Phoenix. I really like the idea of. I think even though it's sort of come out in a weird way, I'm really into the idea of Phoenix being the international champion.
Yeah, I think And the thing with that was it felt to me the way they were kind of like leading into it that it was going to lead to Mox versus Pac.
Mm.
And obviously because of what happened, Phoenix took the belt, so that kind of adds like another wrinkle to it. You could literally have you to take the belt off Phoenix, and then Pac and Yuta have a little back and forth.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Audio do that and Pac and audio again.
And with you, it definitely did seem like it was setting up a Pac, didn't it? Like as soon as this whole like
they were talking about Pac a lot on commentary in Mox's entrance, like as if to say, "Oh yeah, Pac's been mysteriously injured since running with the Blackpool Combat Club." It's like, well, I know who's coming back soon. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, because of the kind of like spanner in the works it's thrown, it's made it almost more exciting than it was. Not to say that that title picture wasn't exciting, but it's definitely added a layer of intrigue that I think might have been lacking after Orange lost the belt.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of them. I guess watch this space.
Yeah. Next up for
right.
you then. I mean, I left an open goal for you there. Hopefully you take it.
From Dynamite or
Well, from something we talked about in the last a team we talked about in the last last
oh,
segment.
I know what you're on about. You're on about the Righteous becoming number one contenders.
Well, not even so much becoming number one contenders, just like the push they seem to be getting.
Yeah, like they've had 2 weeks running Vincent pinning Jeff Hardy on television.
They beat the Hardys twice in 2 weeks and had like two like long promos.
Yeah, that video package.
It was so good.
It was superb.
Yeah, that got me in. I'm like, okay, I'm on now. I'm ready. Let's fucking do it.
Yeah, like I've been a fan of the Righteous since like the pandemic days of Ring of Honor, where I was kind of like watching a lot more Ring of Honor than I had been for quite some time. And that was when they were kind of just starting to become a thing. And then obviously, what happened with Ring of Honor happened, and even like after like that, like the purchase had happened, there was talk of them going to WWE, being part of Bray Wyatt's faction. They were actually seen in the crowd in NXT.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where I was like, oh man, I don't know. I think they're good enough. They'd be stars wherever they go. But I like the fact that they've got that kind of edginess to them in Ring of Honor. Yeah, they won a 4-way against the Kingdom, Best Friends, and the Hardys, which is huge.
Which is mad because I thought the Kingdom were nailed on here.
Nah, I think I don't know. It's one of those things. The Righteous could win this, and I wouldn't be surprised. Alternatively, Better Than You Baby could win it, and then the Kingdom just like take it off them.
Yeah.
So it literally could go like either way. But yeah, like really good showing for all the teams in this match. But the fact that they've had Vincent pin Jeff Hardy, who's one of his heroes as well.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he literally hits a swanton on him, doesn't he? On Collision to pin him, which is great.
And on Rampage as well. Jeff hit a swanton on I think it was Mike Bennett he hit the swanton on, and then Vincent swanton Jeff while he was pinning him, and then just pinned him. This was, as I say, it was a really fun match, and the more better thing for me was the promo on Collision.
Yeah.
Which was like, it was done like an old Wyatt family style promo. They were like they were on like a bandstand, weren't they?
Yeah, they were in like a sort of weird garden, like a sort of botanical garden almost.
And there was like that like Vincent's just talking about like friends betraying friends and stuff like that. And there's like that it was like a washing line, wasn't it, with like two like paper puppets on and one at devil horns.
Yeah.
It was just really good. I hope even if I don't think they're gonna be Better Than You Baby, but a part of me thinks they might.
Even if they don't beat them, they might sort of begin the sort of cracks in the foundation that eventually lead to them breaking up.
I was gonna say, even if they don't, like, more kind of vignettes like this, please, because it's just really compelling.
My only criticism, I'm on shopaw.com now looking at it. There's no Righteous t-shirt. Get me a fucking t-shirt up on
there is a t-shirt on it.
It's
It's
not
on Ring of Honor.
Ah, right, yeah. Get me. They're on AEW now. I think they need it on the proper side.
Because there's like a Ring of Honor one where it's like Vincent and Dutch's face kind of like merged together. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, like entrance is amazing, presentation's amazing. More Righteous, please.
Just get a t-shirt up. You dig what I'm saying?
You dig what I'm saying, indeed.
But no, yeah. I mean, I'm really excited for what these guys are gonna get up to. Yeah, can't wait to see more. I want to talk then a bit about the women's title match. I want to talk some Saraya v Toni Storm because I thought this match was an absolute banger.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit too much fuckery for me, but I think Toni Storm's character work and it was fucking unreal.
Yeah. Her
Like,
entrance as well. She had the black and white camera for the entrance.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
And I think at this point now, Saraya's back to what she was showing up earlier in her career. I think she's fully back in. If she had any rust or anything like that, it's all gone. Like this match, the work rate in this match was phenomenal.
Yeah, I think, and the only like major criticism I had of it was they literally went from, oh no, Tony's still our friend, that we fucking hate Tony, without a great deal of explanation.
I mean, you could read into it like this is just Saraya feeling threatened because Tony's challenging her for a title. Like,
yeah, and as I say, Tony's like doing the Lord's work with like what she's doing.
Yeah, I can't be angry with Toni Storm. I just can't. She's the best thing in women's wrestling at the moment.
She's fucking brilliant. Yeah, just more unhinged madness, please.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things as well, though. I thought they could have had Tony take the belt off Saraya here, and it wouldn't have hurt either woman. I feel like Tony, like now, feels a little bit directionless.
Well, and that's kind of the whole point of her character, isn't it? She's meant to be having this like sort of crisis of confidence. Like if you give her the belt, it kind of wouldn't mind that a little bit. I would be happy if Saraya kept this belt for a while and then maybe lost it to Emi Sakura. Like, if they want to spin that into an actual feud, that'd be lovely.
Yeah, or Mercedes Moné.
Or Mercedes Moné. That's right there, isn't it?
You want to give us a little treat? Yeah, I'd be down for that. But it was a very fun match. Ruby was fucking great as well.
Yeah,
just being absolute shit at ringside. But yeah, it was cool as well that it was like a year on from her debut. The only thing that felt weird was it felt like they were telegraphing like there was going to be a debut after the match, and then there wasn't. So it was just like, because there's that bit where they were kind of like lingering on the stage, and I was like, "What are we doing here?" But I feel like maybe you could, if the debut on Mariah May, Wrestle Dream, maybe they announced that on Dynamite this week.
Yeah,
it's like a debut match against Saraya or something. Do you have anything else you want to say about that?
About what?
About that match?
No, we're good. Move on.
Shall I talk about one thing on Rampage or the thing that Faye wants me to talk about?
Whatever you want.
I'll tell you what. They kind of merge into one, so I'll broach this very quickly, and then I'll talk about the thing Faye wants. So we had Mike Santana defeating Dirty Bull Bronson in a squash match. It was pretty fun.
Sad Hosners.
Mike Santana looks great, to be fair.
He does.
He's put on a lot of muscle, and he just hit some fucking horrific, modified, awful waffle on Bronson, which was just upsetting. And then as he's leaving the ring, Ortiz is waiting for him on the ramp, and they have like a bit of a stare down, and like Mike just walks past them, and there's a really cool like promo from Ortiz on Collision.
I really enjoyed that.
Like, yeah, kind of saying like you can't run from your past sort of thing. Obviously there's very real heat between these two guys. We don't know how much has kind of been like sort of rectified with them and how much is sort of...
there's a lot of blur of the lines here, isn't there? A little bit.
Yeah, I feel like this, if it is the fact that these guys genuinely don't like each other anymore, and I feel like this is kind of like what they should have done with like Punk and the Elite, which would have ended up happening according to the Elite if Punk had kept his nose clean for 6 months.
Yeah.
But either way, it's compelling, isn't it? Because it does blur the line between like
And
reality
clearly, I
and
mean, I'm not going to sort of claim that everything's. I'm not going to speak for Santana or Ortiz and claim that everything's fine, but obviously, there's enough mutual respect and trust there for them to work together.
yeah. I mean, they were doing proud and powerful double team moves, weren't they, during Stadium Stampede? There's obviously like a level of trust between one another.
Yeah.
Just maybe they don't like each other very much. Right, and let's talk about the main event of Rampage, which was the ROH World 6-Man Tag Team Championships. Faye has provided me with a quote, which is just, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, my boys, they did it, my boys."
Fair.
The Home Bucks defeated the Mogul Embassy to become the new 6-Man Tag Team Champions.
Yeah. A result so
really?
tremendous that Matt Jackson said he was going to do an alcohol on BZA.
He did. Hangman did a cartwheel. Matt Hardy said he'd do a cartwheel. Matt Jackson said he'd do a doobie and an alcohol with Hangman.
Yeah.
Yeah, the finish to this was really good. So Swerve come out, and also just a side note, the pop that like Swerve coming out and then Nana at ringside dancing with the entirety of fucking Arthur Ashe doing a dance with him. It was fantastic. Give that man more money.
Yeah, whatever they're paying Prince Nana, it's not enough.
Never enough. Yeah, so Swerve like stood on the ramp and he comes down to the apron as Brian Cage seemingly has it in the bag, like he's got Hangman up for the drill claw, and then Hangman like rolls through and just like locks eyes with Swerve, and Swerve's going ballistic. Really, really cool like visual, and then Swerve's kind of just like screaming, "I'm gonna kill you" at Wrestle Dream, which I cannot wait for that match. I think it could low key be match of the year. Like it's got the potential to be there.
Not low key, mate. Never low key.
Never low key, but it's got potential to be match of the year.
Yeah,
for sure. Like two of the kind of I don't want to say hidden gems because Hangman's a former world champion, but two of the sort of like diamonds in the rough in
two guys who've been like sort of quietly bubbling away for a bit.
Yeah, two guys that everyone knows are fucking amazing wrestlers. They just don't always get the opportunity to showcase that.
Yeah,
and I think that they're both, especially given Swerve's promos that he's been cutting, I think both guys are going to have like an axe to grind and really want to kind of showcase what they're capable of.
Yeah,
and it instantly makes it more exciting for me that they're gonna like that they've got this match because of that. But yeah, new tag champions. I was quite surprised. I thought Swerve would have found some kind of fuckery. I'd like to see Young Bucks showing up on Ring of Honor with the belts.
Yeah, I was saying this to Sarah before. Like, I'd like to see, like, if they're gonna like lose, because obviously we'll talk about they're gonna lose the Dark Order probably at some point. That's probably the play. I'd like to see it happen on an actual Ring of Honor pay-per-view so that they actually show up in Ring of Honor proper.
Yes, before Dishonor.
Yeah,
it's coming up in December.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Also on this card as well, that mentioning the Dark Order, they lost the AEW World Trios Championship match against the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. Again, really fun match. It was kind of like a foregone that the Dark Order weren't really going to win it, purely because they've only just won those brand new belts they spent an absolute fortune on making.
Yeah. Well, they're selling the actual like backup belts that they had made for like $5,000 a pop.
Yeah, that's insane.
A lot of scissors for that.
Some wrestling fans are gonna get fucking battered at a wrestling show to get them Monty.
Next up, I want to talk a bit more women's wrestling, and I want to talk about Julia Hart and the week she's had.
Julia Hart's big week.
Yeah, because she's had one. So she beat Sky Blue. She spat Spooky Mist in Willow's face.
She did,
and then she beat Kira Hogan. So what an absolute baller week.
And then spat more Spooky Mist in Sky Blue's face.
Yeah, everyone's getting black sick, which is fine. And then she called her shot for Wrestle Dream. She wants Chris Statlander for the TBS title because she's on a 26 match winning streak, and her last loss was to Chris Statlander.
Yeah. I think it's Julia's time.
Oh, I know you're low on Statlander, aren't you? So it's like
it's not even that I'm low on Statlander. I just feel like they've had her spinning her wheels for that long, and then they've had her like win those 2 high profile matches against Jade and Britt last week. And I think that Statlander dropping the title to Julia kind of Statlander's been elevated by those 2 wins now. Like if Statlander drops the TBS title, she can go after the women's title.
Yeah,
give
true.
Saraya someone compelling to go after.
Statlander's been champion for 120 days as of this recording. Do you reckon that's enough time to be taking the belt off her?
Yeah, 4 months.
Yeah. I mean, if she's a face champion, it is interesting. They took the trios gold off House of Black, so maybe now you put some more gold on them in the form of Julia Hart. I think
if you get the TBS championship on Julia, and then you could even like go down the road of Julia being like the kind of head of the House of Black now, because it feels like Brody's kind of like a henchman.
Yeah.
And then obviously you've got like Malachi's just kind of in the shadows, biding his time for when he next wants to like come and murder somebody. So Buddy will just appear and just knee someone's soul out the body.
Plus, then if you put the belt on Julia, then it brings that whole stable of Sky Blue, Kira Hogan, Willow Nightingale into title contention, then doesn't it? Like one of them can then be the person to eventually beat Julia.
Yeah, I think Julia at the moment is more of a compelling champion than Chris, and that's not against Chris. It's just I think Chris has bigger fish to fry with Saraya.
Yeah. I think heel champions kind of always naturally are, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the thing with Statlander was she was really exciting in the chase, and she's had some fun matches as champion, but there's still it's still kind of like, as I said, it felt like the first really big, like sort of milestone of her reign was beating Jade and Britt a day apart.
I think as a face champion, it's hard to have a storyline that isn't just has matches, because you don't tend to get chased by heels. You tend to just fight them.
Yeah, I think with Julia as well, like because she's got like such a compelling character, like she can add that extra element of like what like the House of Black would do, and she could defend the belts under house rules.
Oh yeah, that'd be
that back.
That'd be a thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's already a lot of, as I say, there's already a lot of like exciting like routes they can go down here. So I think that's why it would be nice to see Julia win the belt. Yeah. But she's amazing. She's been so good recently.
Like we were talking about this when we were watching Collision. Like her improvement over the last sort of 6 months has been phenomenal, like absolutely rapid. Yeah. As you said, like being around House of Black the whole time, like 3 really phenomenal wrestlers who all work different styles as well. So she's getting so much information, so much varied sort of mentorship, which is just great. I didn't realize until she has a vlog that she did a vlog of a time in London for All In. She's actually really good mates with Lexi, and it was just her and Lexi going for like afternoon tea all the time, which was great. It was dead nice to watch.
That's very sweet.
Yeah.
She's also like you've look at kind of some of the people who are like mentors around AEW, like Bryan Danielson, Dustin Rhodes, Jerry Lynn. Like she's got a wealth of knowledge there to her disposal, and then you look at the fact that she's learning from Buddy. Buddy's fiance is Rhea Ripley, who is obscenely talented, who's probably given her a bit like pointers here and there. Probably at least had a conversation, haven't they? So I think Julie is like their next kind of like big star in the women's division for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Right, I've got one more thing I want to talk about. So I don't know how many you've got.
I could do 2, but
do you want to do one? I'll do one, and then you can finish with one.
Okay. The triple threat between Christie and Luchasaurus and Darby.
Yeah, it's been a week for new champions. Well, I'll say new champions. This is kind of
Oh,
this is like half a title change, I think.
Christian's just like, as he said, it's just another prestigious title defense. This was really well done. So it was just essentially a handicap match. Christian made the challenge, but he was like very weary of saying, "Oh no, it's a triple threat." And then he kept like slipping up saying it was a handicap. It was essentially a handicap match. Darby fighting from below. Darby eventually hits Luchasaurus with a coffin drop. Christian comes in, throws Darby. Oh no, Darby hit Luchasaurus with the belt, didn't he? And then a coffin drop.
Yeah.
And then Christian threw Darby out and pinned Luchasaurus.
Actually, pinned Luchasaurus. I mean, it makes sense, sort of, because obviously it was easier to. You have to make basically Darby was about to win. So in Christian, if Christian wants to justify the Luchasaurus, him pinning Luchasaurus is better than Darby pinning Luchasaurus, because at least that way they still have the belt between them.
Yeah, well, I think as well, like they didn't want to have Christian pinning Darby yet, because obviously this like kind of led up to a 2 out of 3 falls match being announced for Wrestle.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, fuck me, that card's silly. He did also dedicate his win to Nick Wayne's mum and dad.
Yes. Well, first of all, Nick Wayne's mum, and then eventually Nick Wayne's dad after that. Yeah.
Because he's a fucking menace. But yeah, I thought it was really well executed the way they did this, and it was a fun match as well. Like Darby and Luchasaurus have silly good chemistry. So does Christian and Darby.
Yeah.
And the just like little levels of shithousery that Christian does are just fucking fantastic.
Shout out to the bump Darby took at the end as well, and Christian threw him out the ring when he just like didn't. He just chose not to bump onto the apron and just went straight to the floor.
That was grotty. Okay, what is your one? I think I know
my final one. Well, I mean, it wasn't the longest match, but I really enjoyed it. It was FTR versus the Workhorsemen.
Oh yeah, that was very fun.
Just for Dax and JD Drake chopping the piss out of each other was nice.
Did you see what Dax tweeted about this?
Yeah, I put it on Discord when he was saying like all these people saying why are we having matches with like quote nobodies, and it's like because we want them to be somebodies when FTR aren't there anymore.
And JD Drake literally went Workhorsemen, I should say, literally went from people chanting "Who are you?" to holy shit chants when JD hit that fucking moonsault.
Yeah, in the space of like a 5-minute match.
Yeah, JD Drake's, well, both guys are very good, but JD Drake's awesome.
Yeah,
because he's just so deceptive, like of what he can do.
It just goes to show all you need to do is give a team one good match. It doesn't have to be a long one. It doesn't have to be a long match. One good match against good opponents that makes them, and even in defeat they look good. So
yeah, they were getting built up for They were getting built up to being like challengers for the Lucha Bros in ROH before like they dropped the belts.
Yeah.
It was quite disappointing they didn't actually like just do Workhorsemen versus Lucha Bros with the build up they'd done. But that being said, I think matches like this are what are kind of going to be solidifying them as future contenders down the line against like the next lot of champions. Yeah, great showing. As I say, like I love the Workhorsemen. Both really talented guys. Good as singles and a team as well.
Yeah.
If you want Tasty a match to just because I know it'll be a little treat for you. In PWG, there was JD Drake versus Brody King, which was just a big old meat fest. Yeah, check that out if you get a chance.
I absolutely will. That sounds like that sounds like my exact style.
Yeah, it was just chops brawling around the ring. Brody King did a cannonball onto Drake, who was sat on a chair at ringside, and then proceeded to carry on murdering him.
Nice,
lovely. Yeah. The last thing I'm going to talk about, which I mean we should probably all expect at this point, is the Texas Death Match. Bryan Danielson defeating Ricky Starks in. Again, these two are incapable of having a bad match together, aren't they?
Yes, I mean, it's. I think anyone can have a good match with Bryan Danielson, but like when someone clicks with them and they have like that next level chemistry, it just goes off the charts. And I think that's what we're seeing here over 2 matches now. It's been just fire, hasn't it? Straight fire.
Even that tag match with like Big Bill and Ricky against Brian and Claudio was banging.
Yeah, that was also absolutely excellent.
Yeah, again, I think this is like this is a prime example of someone looking amazing in defeat. Like Ricky's took Danielson to the limit 2 matches now, and this was kind of like the end of the feud almost. That it looked like it went off the air before like it finished, but it looked like Ricky and Danielson were going to be shaking hands and Danielson giving him his flowers. Like
well, it almost looked like Ricky was trying to shake Danielson's hand, but BCC weren't letting him get there.
Well, Big Bill and Yuta.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, but Danielson was pushing Yuta out the way. Ricky was pushing Big Bill out the way. Yeah. Basically, they beat the piss out of each other all over the arena.
All over the collision zone.
All over the collision zone. The finish was just brilliant with Danielson hitting a Busaiku knee with a chain wrapped around his knee after like choking Ricky out with the chain. Danielson was pissing blood. They did the whole Ricky getting choked out spot again, but this time with the chain instead of the strap. And Ricky like firing up and then just like ground and pounding Danielson. Yeah, I mean, it's one of them. I'd like to see these two wrestle again, but if this is like the end of the feud, I'm quite content that it's been like quite a fun little feud.
Yeah.
A fun feud of admittedly damage limitation, but nonetheless a fun feud.
Yeah, I agree. Again, the match was great, wasn't it? Like I like the callback as well, like Ricky going and getting the strap specifically to whip Danielson with it.
Yeah,
it was really nice.
Yeah, it was very back and forth as well, wasn't it? Like again, it didn't like the strap match. It didn't feel like it was one guy who was like light years above the other. It felt like a very even match. And as I say, with like the whole damage limitation thing, like Ricky was meant to be getting this rub from CM Punk. Obviously, what happened with Punk happened. I think the fact that Danielson kind of like stepped in and went, "I'm going to make this guy a fucking star."
Yeah, and just doing such an excellent job, like putting together like these two legitimately great matches. I love there's obviously the callback to the strap match where Danielson trying to choke Ricky out with the chain.
Yeah.
And then it not quite getting it done, and then having to use the chain wrapped around his knee to hit the psycho knee was great.
Yeah, it was just an awesome match. I don't think it was as good as the strap match.
No,
that's like
but we're talking a pay-per-view match versus a TV main event, aren't you? You know, it's like
that's like getting like a steak from fucking Hawksmoor or a steak like a really nice steak from like a butcher's.
Yeah,
they're still both good fucking steaks. It's just one's
cooked by a trained chef and one's cooked by you and your flat. So
yeah,
you know
exactly. But yeah, it was very, very fun. Do go and watch it. Was there anything else you wanted to give a shout out to on this before we wrap
just
up?
very quickly, I don't want to talk about it too much, but very quickly, JY Biz Andrade was really good.
Yeah, I did like Juice Robinson just being an absolute fucking menace. He hit Andrade with his collision cowboy of the week.
Hit him so hard.
Hit him like he was fucking doing a golf swing. And then after the match, he cocked his leg up on him like he was a dog.
Yeah. Also, this didn't come across on TV, but someone put a picture on Twitter. Apparently, when he set, because they all of Bullet Club went to like do commentary, didn't they? And he set up Card Blade like in front of like the fans, and he turned to one of the fans and went, "I'm sorry, but he's standing here now." And like literally set it up right in front of where this fan was sitting.
I just love like Juice Robinson's fucking outstanding. He really is. He's.
Then I think as like a sort of like apology, I think he signed something for them just to like because he's actually quite a nice guy. But don't tell anyone.
Did you see him? There was someone with a small card blade at the front row.
Yes, I saw that. That was great.
And he was like hitting their card blade with his card blade. Oh, what an
Yeah,
absolute nuisance.
yeah, it was good fun.
Uh, Also, RVD looked really good.
Yeah, RVD was here, and that was great. 1 year on from Hook and Action Bronson teaming up, it's Hook and RVD teaming up. So every Grand Slam, Hook just has to team up with someone absolutely insane.
Hook has to team up with one of his dad's mates,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
essentially. Next year it'll be, I don't know,
Sandman.
fucking Sandman. Yeah, no, thank you. Hook and Excalibur just for the bands.
Hook and Bill Alfonso.
Oh fucking hell! Imagine. Yeah, but all in all, good week of AEW, I thought.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, should we just run down Wrestle Dream?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's definitely going to be more matches announced.
And there's already
but
9. So.
Is there 9?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Remember when this was looking like to be like the reserved pay-per-view, like the sort of backed off one? So I'll run through all the matches real quick. So we've got the Young Bucks, the Guns, the Lucha Brothers, and Orange Cassidy and Hook in a 4-way tag match for number 1 contenders for the AEW tag titles.
I hope the Ass Boys win though.
Ass Boys. I mean, I'd take Orange Cassidy and Hook just for the lulz.
I don't know. I feel like Aussie Open are going to win the tag titles, so I feel like they might have the Bucks win it or Lucha Bros just because it's like a little dream match, isn't it?
Dream match sort of thing. Yeah. We've got the match we just talked about: Chris Statlander versus Julia Hart singles match for the TBS title. One we haven't talked about, but fuck me, am I ready for this? Eddie Kingston versus Katsuyori Shibata.
Yeah, it's going to go so fucking hard.
And that's for Eddie. That's for both of Eddie's titles, but not Shibata's pure title.
Yeah.
And it was just Eddie was just backstage, just like, yeah, I want to fight Shibata, so come on, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here for it.
Yeah. We've got Christian Cage versus Darby, 2 out of 3 falls for the TNT title. I mean, surely Christian's got to retain here.
You'd think so, but also...
I know the TNT title is the hottest potato, but still.
Christian's had that belt for months, mate. So I wouldn't be surprised if Darby just won it, but then also Darby's going to become a fucking marker on Mount Everest soon, so...
Yeah. Match we talked about before, 6-man, Chris Jericho and the Golden Lovers versus the Don Callis family. That's Takeshita, Sammy Guevara, and Will Ospreay.
Yeah, that's going to be silly good, isn't it?
That's probably going to be a lot of people's pick for match tonight. Yeah. And I can see it being a really good match. Jericho's got to put his fucking working boots on for that one, eh?
Kota Ibushi's going to knee Sammy so hard that he's going to start wearing a panda head again.
Gonna think he works in Whataburger. Then we got Better Than You, Baby versus The Righteous. Again, that's a match that you said before, Jay. That could go either way. I'm really intrigued what happens there. I just want some level of mind fuckery from Vincent.
Oh, I think the storytelling between Vincent and MJF is going to be fucking unreal.
I hope they get like a little segment this week on one of the programs to sort of like, I want MJF to talk about Vincent, about The Righteous. I want The Righteous to sort of hit back. You know what I mean? I want a little bit of back and forth.
Yeah, I want to just see Dutch doing Dutch things. That's all I really want.
Yeah.
Because a man that big should not be able to move as fast as he can.
He's so good. And he wears so many clothes and he must be so sweaty all the time.
Have you seen any of his stuff from, I think he had a brief run in Chikara, but he did like a lot of stuff in like Beyond as part of Team Tremendous.
He doesn't have a Wikipedia page, which is really weird. So it's hard to keep track of where he's been.
He was in a tag team with Dan Barry called Team Tremendous. So they were basically dressed as like 80s cops.
Oh, nice.
So Dan Barry was wearing like shorts and a Hawaiian shirt with a police badge. And Dutch who was going by his real name, Bill Carr, had like a full like black pants, a white shirt, black tie, suspenders, and a police badge as well.
Basically what he's wearing now, but not all white.
But yeah, with like black and that, and he had a tie on all match. Yeah, they were fucking awesome.
Next up, we got FTR versus Aussie Open. Again, I think really, I'd love to see Aussie Open win the belt here.
I think they should get that belt off.
How long have Bald and Hair been champions?
They've been
173 days.
Yeah, so coming up to 6 months. It'll be 6 months to the day.
So, to put in perspective, that's the longest tag reign since the Bucks won them in 2020, in November 2020.
Yeah, I think
September 2021.
I think Aussie Open take them. Again, it's one of those things. There's just more compelling opponents for Aussie Open than for FTR.
Yeah, there's
Because
more matches. There's more matches I want to see Aussie Open have, basically.
FTR have beaten pretty much everyone at this point. There are teams that they haven't beaten, but
Yeah,
there's no one, like, not to discredit like some of the other teams down the card, but there's no one major that FTR haven't beaten,
yeah,
with the exception maybe of like the best friends in the kingdom. Again, I feel like Aussie Open as tag champions, they can kind of go run the gamut of like so many like good face teams there. Like you got Young Bucks, you got Lucha Bros, Orange and Hook are a thing now. I imagine Danhausen's back on the horizon, so you could have Hookhausen. Yeah. Golden Lovers.
And then we've got the two big singles matches. So we've got Hangman versus Swerve, which is going to be, like you said, Jay, a sleeper banger of the night.
I genuinely think that this has potential to be match of the year, because
I'm with you on this as well. I think Swerve's got to win this.
Swerve has to win it. But I think as well, the thing is, like, it's two guys who've really got a point to prove. So when you get two guys like that, I mean, as the advert says, every match has potential to steal the show, which is amazing. You look at this card, and it only got announced like a month ago. The show it was after All Out, wasn't it? Or was it after All In? After All In, it was.
After All In, yeah.
And then they started announcing matches after All Out.
Yeah.
Like the Dynamite after.
And then in what I presume is going to be the main event, we've got
again, match of the year contender all over.
Yeah, you want to talk about match of the year? Let's talk about Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, Zack Sabre Jr. is going to get his fucking head kicked in.
A match we should have had like 2 times already by now, but here we go.
Yeah, it was meant to be on Forbidden Door last year, got cancelled. You started teasing for Forbidden Door, and then All In, and then various reasons why it didn't happen. And now we finally got it, and I think it's gonna be silly good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially if Dragon comes out for the final countdown.
I mean, I'd like to think at this point he will, because he seems to always do it now at big shows. So,
well, I don't know. I think Tony said he bought it for 2 shows.
Oh, right, okay. So we'll see. We'll see.
Which is why he bought it. He's like, I don't know, it's expensive. So we'll see what Europe have to say. Europe probably put the price on it.
Before we finish off, just after there's been a last final bit of news. I'll say news, a bit of rumor and conjuncture. So regarding Wrestle Dream, Tony Khan basically said, Wrestle Dream will end a chapter in wrestling history and begin a new era in AEW live on pay-per-view.
Yeah, so
people are basically taking that to mean everything from they're basically merging all the Ring of Honor titles with the AEW titles, all the way through to Tony's buying New Japan.
Fucking hell, calm down. He's got a lot of money. I don't know if he's got the money to buy New Japan.
Although, I mean, Fulham don't need a new striker, mate. It's fine.
They've just bought Alex Iwobi.
Exactly.
Although, that being said, did you see Will Ospreay said that WWE tried to buy RevPro for $1 million?
Yeah.
The audacity. I remember WWE tried to buy fucking Noah a couple of years ago to send it to NXT Japan as well.
Yep. Oh, yes.
And now look at Noah, just absolutely smashing it.
Yeah,
we've got some of your favourites like Psycho Clown and Timothy Thatcher just murdering people over there. It's glorious.
They even got rid of Mike Logan eventually.
Eventually, yeah. Although, yeah, Psycho Clown. That was very good.
Yeah.
And Ninja Mac as well.
And Ninja Mac. So yeah, there we go. Obviously, keep an eye on Wrestle Kingdom this weekend. Something big might happen. New Japan might get bought by AEW. Who knows?
Yeah. So this was the advert that was mentioned, where like he says on it like every match has potential to be match of the night. I think he says the end of one era, which obviously is like a memorial show for Antonio Inoki, which that makes sense. But then the beginning of a new era. Now, a lot of people are thinking something big could happen there. Personally, I think it's Tony Khan blowing smoke out his ass like he usually does.
Yeah.
Although I'd rather be happy than right. So if it does turn out that like they've got some kind of merger with like New Japan or something, like a full-time merger, that'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah, like an actual working partnership or something like that.
Well, they've got the working partnership because it's Forbidden Door, but if they've got like a full-blown like all year round talent exchange, kind of like what
like some sort of talent exchange. So it's like, yeah, we'll just send Yuta over to New Japan for a year, and we'll take, I don't know, Naito or something. I don't know.
Like what WCW had with them, where like they just had Liger show up for like 3 months and just tear down the fucking house, and then Masahiro Chono just showing up and was in NWO for a bit. That would be nice. But yeah, either way, I think it's, regardless, this show on paper this is probably like my show of the year. I said to you the other day, this feels like it's tailor-made for me.
Oh yeah, I mean, it could easily be a show of the year contender, couldn't it? I mean,
yeah, and I think there's probably going to be more matches announced this week as well. I think it's safe in saying there's probably going to be between 3 and 5 matches announced on Dynamite and Collision and Rampage this week.
You think they go to 14 matches?
Yeah. It's Tony Khan, mate. He just does fucking rails and goes, "Oh, I'm just going to like throw this shit on the pre-show. Let's see what happens."
I mean, there's not even a tournament, so.
No, not yet. But yeah, I mean, like they announced Hook and Jungle Boy. Like, didn't they announce that on the day of All In?
I think so, yeah.
So yeah, you know what I mean.
That went so well, didn't it?
Oh, don't worry about it. So there's every chance they're probably going to announce a few more matches. I think, given the fact that they're going on about this being like an Inoki show, I feel like it's very New Japan light at the moment. Like, there's only, realistically, looking at the card, you've got Zack Sabre Jr.,
Ospreay,
Aussie Open to a degree, Ibushi to a degree, Shibata. You could say like Kenny and the Bucks and Eddie Kingston fall into those categories as well. But there's still very much like room for like an Okada to show up there, or Suzuki. You know what I mean? There's plenty of names they could just add on the card. I mean, at time of recording, and obviously it's pending concussion protocol, John Moxley doesn't have a match on that card.
Yeah.
And neither does Ray Phoenix. Well, no, sorry, Ray Phoenix does. I'm lying. I forgot about that match. And like, there's plenty of matches they could add to that card to then like give it a bit more of a New Japan feel, for sure.
Yeah, fair.
Right. Just put Claudio versus Minoru Suzuki on there for the lulz.
Just throw that on the pre-show, just for laughs.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Ishii's not doing anything. Get Ishii versus, I don't know, Miro.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Right, well, we'll be back next week to talk all about that, I think. We're going to wrap it up for there. And yeah, we'll be back next week to talk all about Wrestle Dream and all the other nonsense that happens in the world of professional wrestling, which historically is none. Like, nothing ever happens in the world of wrestling we need to talk about, so it's all fine.
No. Not at all. Not at all.
So until then, have a lovely weekend. Enjoy your Wrestle Dream. Enjoy all the wrestling that you watch. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Take care and goodbye.
Bye.
Hello, yes, Danhausen here. Danhausen has been summoned. You must love this podcast housing, the Untitled Wrestling Podcast housing.